Hello, hello. Welcome to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we move away from awareness towards action. It's Health and Wellness Monday, and our topic for today is how to stay healthy as you age. On the last episode of Warriors Talk, Rizal and I discussed our traditional marriages outdated. Head on over to YouTube and type in intellectual radio and stay connected for any episodes you may have missed. The quote of the day is aging is not an option, not for anyone. It's how gracefully we handle the process and how luckily we are, how the process handles us. Here is your trending topic for today. Former President Donald Trump on Sunday reflected on the assassination attempt against him over the weekend, describing it as a very surreal experience as he made his way to this week's Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be dead, Trump told reporters of the New York Post and the Washington Examiner. Aboard his plane to Washington, where the Republican National Convention kicks off today. The doctors told him at the hospital that they never saw anything like it and that he was a miracle. Trump added that the doctors told him that they never saw anyone survive a hit by an AR 15. By luck or by God, many people are saying it's by God that I'm still here. The former president applauded the Secret Service for their response to the shooting, which took place on Saturday at the campaign rally in Butler, PA, 30 miles from Pittsburgh. They're fantastic. They did a great job, and it's surreal for all of us. Trump was on stage for less than 10 minutes when a series of shots was heard, and the former president grabbed his ear and his neck. The Secret Service agent stormed the stage, and they brought Trump to his feet. He pumped his fist up to the crowd and mouthed the words, "Fight." Photographers at the rally captured the moment of Trump's fist pump in the air, which was heavily circulated on social media shortly after the incident. A lot of people are saying that it is the most iconic photo they have ever seen. And Trump said in an interview, "They are right. I did die. Usually you have to die to have an iconic picture. I just want to keep speaking, but I got shot." The shooter was identified by the FBI as 20-year-old Thomas Crooks of Bethel, PA. He was fatally shot by authorities moments after shots were fired from a rooftop in the vicinity of the actual rally site. They took him out with one shot straight between the eyes, said the former president, pointing to the bridge of his nose. One suspect, or one spectator that is, was actually killed, and two other individuals were injured. So prayers go out to their family and the former president. If you are tuned in on any form of social media, do me a favor, like the show, share the show, invite someone in on the show that you feel may benefit from this valuable information. I am so grateful for my guest on today, who is no stranger to Warriors Talk. And she is our healthy solution expert with over 20 years experience as a family physician, and she's impacting lives every single day. Hey, Doc Michelle.
Hello, Lady ReShell. How are you this Monday?
I'm good. I'm good. Long
Good.
time no see.
I know. It's been a crazy busy summer and it's half over, I guess. It'll be over before we know it, but
I
yeah, it's
know.
been busy.
Yes. Well, it's good to see you today. I feel like this topic that we have is very much needed and it affects everyone. Everyone can identify with how to stay healthy as you age.
Yeah, we know the population is getting older, right? We have lots of great medicines and treatments that keep people alive longer. And so people want to have those years, but you want to have quality years too, right? As you said,
Absolutely.
it's not an option, God willing, that you will continue to age, but you want to have good quality.
Yes. So the number of Americans aged 65 and older is projected to increase from 58 million in 2022 to 82 million in 2050. That's a 47% increase. And the 65-year-old group shares a total population projected to rise from 17% to 23%. And they're saying that the US population is the oldest today as it has ever been.
Yes, yes. And sometimes we think about it and you get a little bit nervous, like, oh my gosh, I see older people who are disabled and they're not living, really healthy lives. So I'm glad you brought up this topic, because as we're living longer, how do we do that? How do we live well into our 80s, into our 70s, 80s, and even 90s, And this is a topic we talk about a lot when we talk about a lot of disease states, right? What are the things that we can do every day so that we are active, our mind is healthy, our body is healthy, and we've got a healthy spirit?
Yes. Now, I read something that said that the gain life expectancy recently stalled in 2019. From 2019 through 2021, there was a 2.4 decline in life expectancy. And most of it was probably due to the pandemic, too, largely due to that. They mentioned overdose in drugs, heart disease, chronic liver disease, and suicide played a role in the life expectancy for those individuals. But they said life expectancy rebounds slightly in 2022 to 77.5 years for
Yes.
individuals.
Yeah, yeah. So there was a little bit of a plateau, right, when we had the pandemic, and a lot of the things that you mentioned, right? Heart disease, suicide, mental illness, right? Liver disease from alcoholism or other things are things that we, can do something about, right? So there's certain things that we don't have much say in our genetics, right? And the age that we are. But the things that we can't control, let's control that. We talk about being physically active all the time, right? Even as we get older, we think, oh, maybe I have some mobility issues. I'm a little bit unsteady on my feet. Maybe I've developed some peripheral neuropathy or things that may hinder your mobility, but we still want you safely to move. And so we talk about walking. We know that studies show that if you can get about 8,000 steps a day, that really decreases your mortality from all diseases. So get moving. Even if you have to start slow, right? And start moving now, right? If you're listening and in your 30s, 40s, 50s, start moving. Use whatever device you have to track your motion. And it doesn't have to be getting 8,000 steps by walking, 3 miles all at once. It's move more. If you garden, if you have a dog, I try to walk my dog a mile in the morning and a mile in the evening so I can get moving, especially when we have sedentary jobs where we may be sitting a lot. Incorporate activity into your day.
I like that. I feel like walking is the freest, cheapest thing that you can do. You don't necessarily have to be in a gym, you don't need any equipment, and you can break it up into different times that you can do it. It doesn't necessarily have to be all at once. So I feel like there's really no excuse unless you're not able to walk.
Yeah. And so on one part of that, we say that if you can only do 10 minutes 3 times a day, it's just as good as 30 minutes all at once. So get it in that way. And then if you have mobility issues, maybe it's easier for you to do aqua therapy, right? We recommend water exercise for a lot of people who have some mobility issues. It's got to be in a safe setting, but when you are in the water, you're more buoyant, you weigh less, and so you're still walking against the resistance of the water, you're moving. And so that's another way to get some motion. If it's hard for you to walk on concrete, if those knees and those hips and the back bother you when you know you walk a lot, get in a pool, right? Get in a pool with someone, walk along the side and do that. So there's different ways you can incorporate activity. And that's just one way. There's stationary seated bikes that you can do as well. But physical activity not only helps with weight management, but it helps with the blood flow to the brain and helps to decrease dementia as we get older. And helps to reduce the risk of chronic diseases like diabetes and heart disease.
Talk about, because I think a lot of people don't realize this, that the muscle mass that we have is very important to our survival and living a long life.
Yes, it's not just the aerobic cardiac activity, but it's also gaining muscle mass. Especially as we gain muscle mass, it makes the bones stronger around those muscles, which decreases the risk of fractures, right? As we get older, we hear about people may fall, trip, and then they break a hip. But if your bones are strong and you have that muscle mass, it helps prevent that. And so that means I tell patients, I'm not saying lift a lot of weights. I'm saying
Right,
even if
right.
all you can do is a can of vegetables as you're sitting watching TV, if that's 3 pound weights, 5 pound weights, have those in your house, right? Even while you're watching TV, I tell a lot of patients, even while you're sitting, chair exercise. Just sit. If you're trying to do that during Wheel of Fortune or whatever your show is, start doing that. Lift the weights up. That is going to help you to build muscle. I say get up and down from your chair, sit, stand, sit, stand, right? You're starting to strengthen the muscles and the
Yes.
hips and the quads.
Yes, squats. That's the chair exercise is just like a squat. If you're able to do a squat, even if you're doing like 25 squats a day, just increasing them, it's going to help you be able to get around, to get up, reach for stuff in the cabinets. Like
Yes.
I think we take for granted sometimes that these things that we do normally, we just expect that they're going to come as we age. And then we're in for a big surprise when we haven't worked or put in the time to have that mobility when we get older.
Yeah, and every little bit helps. Like you said, we talk about functional exercises, exercises that help you function, right? So sitting up, getting up and sitting down, getting up and sitting down is going to help you, get up to reach things in your cabinet, right? How do you get up from the floor, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I tell patients, practice getting down to the floor and getting up from the floor because you use all sorts of muscles when you do that. Your quads, your core, lots of things.
Yeah.
So that's another way to just start incorporating it on whatever level of activity you're in.
Yes, I recently took up skating, right? Because I would go skating, but I would put on the skates, but I really didn't know how to skate, but I would just like feel my way around. But I recently took skating lessons. And one of the things that they teach us at the beginning is how to get up when you fall. And one of the ways you get up is you have to use your strength to push yourself up on one leg. And you just don't realize how hard it is to do that. And the instructor told me, go home and do squats. If you go home and do squats, then you will be able to lift yourself up when you fall. They want you to get up the proper way so you won't injure yourself getting up. And I'm just like, what? And so I went home and I started doing the squats. And then I came back and then we would practice getting up, and I was able to lift myself up just by doing the squats. So it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, and you make a good point too. Find an activity you enjoy so it doesn't feel like exercise, right? It feels like you're out having fun. I need to put that on my list to learn how to roller skate because I used to when I was a kid, but I'm afraid to get on them now. But yeah, so find something that you enjoy. If it's, I told my husband, let's get air in the bikes so we can go bike riding, right?
Mhm.
Whatever that is that you think, oh, I really always wanted to learn that. If it's your local Y that has line dancing classes,
Yeah.
right? Learn the dances. Dancing is great not only for exercise, but for your mental health as well.
Yes, yes. And then I wanted to talk about like people that are obese, right? We know that with obesity, it comes a lot of different things, right? Your risk for death increase because it puts you at risk for type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease. But just because you're obese, it doesn't mean that I want to say you're unhealthy in a way. If you're moving, if you're an obese person and you're still moving, you're still exercising, and even though you're not losing the weight that you want to, the whole point is that you're still moving, right?
Yeah,
It's important that you keep moving, but it's also important to know that thin is not also not always
not
healthy
always
as
healthy
well.
either.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Two great points, right? So we know when you're obese, it's an inflammatory condition. It puts you at risk for all the things that you have mentioned. And certainly weight loss helps to reduce the risks of those diseases. But studies also show that even if you are moving and not losing weight, you are still getting the benefits of moving, right? So don't get frustrated when, and I hear that too, right? you're doing everything and you're not really seeing the results right away, that's okay. We talk about what else could be going on with diet and food, and we can talk about that as well. But we want you to move, even though you don't see the weight loss right away because of the benefits of movement for physical and mental health. But we also want us to look at reducing that BMI, reducing your weight so that you decrease the risk of heart disease, strokes, high blood pressure, and all the other things that cause other problems, right? Because we know one thing leads to the next thing.
Yes. Yes. And I just want to say that when you exercise, it helps you focus. Like it really helps your mental. I think we take that for granted as well. And then we'll get into stress. So I don't want to jump ahead of where we're going right now. So let's talk about healthy eating, making those smart choices. It's so easy, Doc Michelle, for us to, we're at work and a lot of times we don't bring our lunch and we're out eating fast food, or we get off work and we want to snack on the way home. We get a candy bar. Like it's just so easy to make the unhealthy choices. Making healthy choices, it takes work. It takes work to prepare those meals in advance and bring it with you to grocery shop, being intentional about picking healthy products. So
Yes, you made great choice, great points, because you can't eat healthy consistently without planning, right?
yes.
I'll tell you, there are times if I'm busy and I'm on my way home and I haven't really eaten much during the day, I find myself stopping for the fast food because I didn't plan well during my work day. That on my way home, I'm going to get whatever because, my brain is telling me you're hungry, satisfy that hunger. And so, and I know it. And I know that when I prepare and I take healthy snacks and I have a good healthy lunch, that I'm not going to do that. So that's one part. One part is planning, right? And the other part is really knowing what healthy choices you can make, right?
Yeah.
Because I've had patients who will ask me about all the different diets out there and what really works, right? Do I eat a lot of protein? Do I eat a lot of fat? Do I go low fat? Right. But what we know is there's two diets that are really good, that every doctor, every study shows is beneficial. And if you can Google it, it's the DASH diet, which dietary approaches to stopping hypertension, the DASH diet, and the Mediterranean diet, right? So the DASH diet and the Mediterranean diet, they work hand in hand in that the options that for the DASH diet is really low sodium, right? So trying not to eat a lot of high salt, wrong meats, prepared meats and things. But the Mediterranean diet, which you're showing here, which every study says helps you live longer, helps to decrease your risk of heart disease. And the people who follow the Mediterranean diet live longer. They live longer and they live healthier. They've done studies that actually show that when people do a strict Mediterranean diet, right? A strict, even sort of plant-based diet, that they will do studies of their heart arteries before and after, and they can see reduction in the plaque buildup in your arteries when you follow a Mediterranean plant-based diet. And so you're showing here a lot of the options, right? And we're not saying start and do everything all at once. That's
Right.
hard to do, right? Pick two or three things that you want to incorporate into your next grocery shopping list, right? I look at this list and I say, okay, well, maybe I want to add more carrots to my meals. Maybe I want to add cucumbers. I love sliced cucumbers. Add it to your salad. What fruits can you add that's on that list? Pick one or two that you know you will eat, because part of the problem is we buy things and then they go bad and then we don't want to buy them anymore, right? So look at that list, take a screenshot of it, Google it online, and add, whole grain bread instead of white bread. Instead of white rice, use brown rice. Use those healthy grains, right? The right nuts and seeds to your diet. And so I use this a lot, and I say just pick a couple of things from there that you can incorporate Maybe you want to add something to your breakfast, a little to your lunch, maybe to your dinner. And then over time, it will become a habit. But we know that eating the right foods is great for the what it does for our heart and for all those chronic illnesses that we are battling, and of course for obesity, right? If we're not following the DASH or the Mediterranean diet, we're usually eating a lot of high fat foods, red meat. I also use something called the plate, looking at your plate. And if you look at your plate when you're out or when you go to the fast food place and there's not a lot of color on your plate, it's probably not a healthy plate, right? Because if you think about fast food, it's probably brown, white, right? Your fries, your meat. There's no color. There's no fruits. There's no vegetables. Okay, we'll count the lettuce on the burger. We can count that. We can count the tomatoes. But you want to look at your plate. Easiest way to know, is my plate healthy? Is there a lot of color on my plate?
Yes, and I'm looking at this list and I see a lot of things on here that I have incorporated into my diet. Well, I don't want to say diet, my lifestyle, how I eat right now. And I see some things that I can add because we do want variety. Like sometimes I find myself just sticking to my go-tos because I know that they're going to be healthy. I know I'm going to get the nutrition I need for them. But just looking at this list, it's like, oh wow, it's like unlimited possibilities out here that I can incorporate into just making different meals and make them fun and make me want to eat.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I would look at my mother before she passed. She lived till she was 88. And she would always go, when I go to the grocery store, she'd tell me to get her pomegranate. I'm like, pomegranate? And she would cut them, she would eat them. And I started eating pomegranates, right? Because they're very red, they're juicy. And when you think about the things, we talk about these antioxidants, you hear me talk about a lot. The fruits and vegetables with that bright red, purple, blue color have those great antioxidants that help our cells to stay healthy, right? So I think about blueberries, think about strawberries, pomegranate, things like that. Try to incorporate those things, but eat it if you buy it.
Yes. What are your thoughts on fasting?
So there is definite benefit to fasting. It helps to sort of regulate and stabilize your insulin levels. And so if you can do that on a short-term basis, there is benefit to that for a number of reasons. It can and you got to make sure you clear that with your physician because you shouldn't be fasting if you have certain medical issues like diabetes for sure. And so fasting under the right circumstances can help reset your insulin and also help with weight management, especially if you are getting your right foods in the windows that you're supposed to eat. And when you're fasting, you're still drinking water or healthy beverages as well. Don't get dehydrated.
Right. I always say the key is to start small, making changes. Something, every single either day or every single week until
Yeah.
you look back 30 days and you realize, oh wow, like you have really
Yes.
totally changed your diet and you can feel it in your body, just more
Oh,
energy, your
yes.
skin, like focus.
Yes. Give yourself 90 days at least to try something before you say it's not working for
Yeah.
you, right? And it takes that long to really see and feel the benefits, right? Some of it you'll feel right away, especially if you stop things like sugar, things like really
Yes. Yes.
heavy, fatty meals that make you feel so tired and sluggish after you eat them. Those things you'll notice right away, right? You may not notice, oh, I am thinking a little clearer. Oh, I am sleeping a little better, right? That might take a little bit longer.
Wow. Now the third one, Dr. Michelle, I'm so bad at this one. And I promised myself that I was going to try and get a schedule to where I can really get me. So I think I do good in all the other areas except for this one.
Yeah, we always give up the sleep, right? It's the one thing we're like, oh, I need to stay up all night long to get this paper done, or I have something to do for work, or I'm out partying, or whatever it is. And then we get 3 or 4 hours and we're up, we're like, I can push through. But we
Right.
know that when you're not, a couple of things, when you're not getting enough sleep, it's a stress to your body. So it increases the cortisol, the stress hormone in your body, which then leads to a lot of other things, right? To high blood pressure and obesity and all the things here, the irritability and depression, forgetfulness. We know that people who get 6 hours of sleep or less, they did a study of 8,000 people in their 50s and 60s who on average get 6 hours or less of sleep. They had a higher risk of developing dementia.
Wow.
We want you to get 8 to 10 hours ideally, right? And figuring out how you balance that with the other responsibilities of your life, right? Try to go to bed at the same time as much as you can. Go to bed at the same time and try to wake up at the same time as much as you can. Because we know when you're not getting sleep, it not only affects you physically, but it affects you mentally as well, for the things that you have listed here. And so there's more and more evidence that shows that as we get older, we think that we don't need as much sleep as when we were younger, but we do. We need the same amount of sleep. And we know that getting adequate sleep decreases your risk of dying earlier and decreases your risk of dementia, right? And so I implore everyone, I can't tell you how many times I ask that question. People are they're slacking on their sleep because of all the busy things that we have to do as working parents, responsibilities, maybe as caregivers for others, stressful things, right? If you drive a lot for your job and you get home late and you want to get all these other things in, sleep is a stress. Lack of sleep is a stress to your body, right? And we talk about that too, and stress and mental health when we talk about aging well and aging healthily. We want to incorporate this. We talked about physical exercise, we talk about diet, we talk about sleep, and then how all those things affect your mental health and your stress.
Yes. What about those individuals who are smoking and
I know.
they can't stop, even if you're uh, it could be cigarettes, it could be vaping, it could be
Yeah,
weed,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
smoking.
yeah. So if you're smoking tobacco, first thing, if you're smoking tobacco, I said if you're smoking, quit. But there's lots of options, right? There's so many things that we can do now to help people quit. There are as a First of all, mentally, you have to be ready to quit, right? You have to be able to say, I'm ready to do it. Give me the solutions, because there are solutions, right? From simple things like nicotine patch and the gum, but there's also medications that can help decrease the craving for nicotine. Nothing works unless you're motivated and ready to do it. Um, and then there's lots of 1-800 quit now. There's apps. I had a patient who previously he was smoking like half a pack a day, and he got an app, don't ask me which one, but it allowed him to say, okay, here are the times where I know is my most difficult times right now, right? Allow me the cigarette here, and I won't smoke these other times, right? So if you try to quit the easy cigarettes, right? But you
Yeah.
know there are times like that you just feel that craving, don't pick that right off the bat. Now some people can quit cold turkey. If you can quit cold turkey, maybe you're not a whole pack a day smoker and you can quit cold turkey, do it. But if you feel like you need to go slowly, there are apps that can help. There's medications that can help. There's gum patches, things like that that can help. And then for have a support system. I tell people who are trying to quit, have one or two people who are the real support that you can call, because studies show that if you can get past the 5 minutes of that craving, then you got past that craving,
Wow.
right? And that might be calling someone to keep you motivated. That might be doing something. It might be twirling your pencil, doing crossword puzzles, anything that gets your mind off of it can help. I've had patients who told me they had to rearrange their dining room so that
Mm.
it looked different, because they would sit in the same spot in their dining room in the same chair, and
Wow.
your brain is a wonderful thing. It knows that if you sit in that chair, a cigarette comes next,
Mhm.
right?
Wow.
And so you have to change all of that for certain people. Just think about what it is that's going to help you be consistent with that.
The one thing that's positive about smoking is that if you stop smoking, then you can reap the benefits of stop smoking like immediately. I think people they don't realize that. I remember the doctor telling my dad like maybe 25 years before he got lung cancer, like, we see a spot on your lungs, like you need to stop smoking. And I know he tried the patch, he tried the gum, he tried to stop. He tried it. It's an addiction.
It is an
I
addiction.
don't think people really understand that it really is an addiction. And in the way that you stop with regular other substances, you need to take that same measure with cigarettes. And so, he kept smoking and he ended up passing away um, to lung cancer. But the doctor told him 25 years before that to stop smoking. And I just wonder, like, where would he be? Where would his health have been if he had to stop smoking?
Yeah, it's so difficult to quit, but you're right that no matter how long you've been a smoker, when you quit smoking, you get the benefits. Like you said, your lungs improve, you can breathe easier, right? You decrease the risk of getting lung cancer or that lung cancer progressing. They've done studies on people who are in their 60s and they've been smoking, but they still, if they quit that at that point, they're still reaping the benefits of quitting, right? It's one of the best things you can do for your health because it quitting will improve your blood circulation, decrease your risk of heart disease, improve your lung oxygenation. All of that is going to help you to feel better and live better longer into your years. But it's so difficult. It's very hard without good support beyond just even the medicines, right? Know that if you relapse, if you smoke that cigarette, that doesn't mean you have to keep smoking, right? Forgive yourself. Yes, I had that cigarette. I'm going to get back on this horse and I'm going to go for it again. People try to quit up to 3 times before they
Yeah.
quit,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
So,
And then I think about like alcohol and substances. Like, even though if you've been doing it for a long period of time and you stop, like, a lot of times your body, you already have damage, maybe
right.
your liver, like certain organs in your body have already been damaged. Not to say that you can't stop doing those particular substances so that you won't further damage them, but I feel like with substances like this, sometimes you don't realize the damage that's happening. And then sometimes you
Yeah.
hear about people young passing away from like a heart attack or something. You're like, oh, what happened? They were so young. And then you realize, oh, they was doing cocaine for a long period of time, they was doing this type of drugs. Like, you don't really, I think they don't really understand what it's doing to the heart.
Yeah. And something like alcohol, which is very socially acceptable for from one drink to many drinks, right,
Yeah.
can be socially acceptable, but alcohol damages your nerves, your peripheral nerves, so then you can't feel the ground as much, you get a sore that becomes an ulcer, you trip and fall, you break something, right? Damages that. It damages, we know about your liver. It also causes heart failure. People who drink a lot of alcohol can have a big floppy heart that's not pumping and they get heart failure. It also causes brain damage, right? People, they're not thinking as clearly, they're just not right. That's because the alcohol has damaged the brain, causes vitamin deficiencies. Yes. And so there's so many things that alcohol that is socially acceptable can do. And it's insidious. It's not going to happen all at once. It's going to happen after years and years and years. Um, oh,
Oh,
yeah.
my Leah said that this is good information. Can we get an episode on the effects of caffeine?
Yes, that's also very socially acceptable, right? But caffeine can cause a lot of issues too. High blood pressure, palpitations. Yes,
Uh,
we can
I
definitely do
remember
that.
I remember, Dr. Michelle, in my 20s, I went to the doctor because my heart was just I was having palpitations a lot. And the doctor was asking me about caffeine, and I was telling her, and she was like, "You need to stop with the caffeine." I would have a 32-ounce Pepsi, and I would have like a king size Snicker or whatever. And sometimes I would eat them both together.
Oh my
And she was
God.
like, no. And
Right.
I'm one of those people that I can stop cold turkey. Like if you say, hey, you need to stop doing this, you're gonna die. Like I stopped
Right.
cold turkey when she told me that. So like, and when it comes to, I drink tea, and a lot of times it's the caffeinated. I try to do the dark chocolate because it doesn't, have the caffeine in it. But you may have some people who may be addicted to coffee, who may be addicted to pop, and it's still an addiction. It's just
Yes.
like drugs, but it may have
Yes.
a different effect, but it still have some type of negative effect on your body.
Yeah. Yeah. And coffee these days is stronger than it ever was, right? And we drink and pop the dark sodas. Yes.
Yeah.
Not just the caffeine, but the sugar that's with it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Number 6 is how to stay healthy as you age is to go to the doctor on a regular basis. What does
Yes.
that mean on a regular basis? Some people may be like, how often is that?
Yeah. So that's at least for if you're in good health, you should be at least getting your once a year annual checkup, right? Everyone's like, oh, I feel good. I don't need to go to the doctor. Well, we want you to stay that way. And we've talked on your show about a lot of medical illnesses are silent until they're not, right? And,
Yeah.
and we want to catch things early. And we've talked about this before. We can do lots of blood work and tests, and we ask the right questions to understand, are you at risk for something we need to screen you for? Do we need to check certain blood work to make sure your kidney numbers look good and your cholesterol, right? Cholesterol is silent, but we know that cholesterol, in the bloodstream can lead to heart disease and strokes, right? So go to the doctor regularly for your regular screenings. And if you have a medical condition, you should be going more often than that, probably every couple of months or even more, depending on how severe your illness is. But it's important to get screened for things that we can catch early and prevent serious illness. Can't stress that enough, right? From breast cancer to colon cancer to high blood pressure, which leads to a lot of other things. We can check you for diabetes and see early signs when we check certain blood tests, right? And so all those things, we want to catch them early because people die of the complications of
Yeah.
diabetes, the complications of heart disease. That's what
Yeah.
we want to prevent.
Yes. Absolutely. Like every time I talk to my mom, she's going to the doctor for something. I'm just like, every time I talk, she's like, "Oh, I have a doctor's appointment." I mean, she's 79 years old, but she's like, "Oh, I got a doctor's appointment." I'm like, "What doctor is this? What do you want?"
Right,
"Oh, this is for my heart. I'm going to the cardiologist."
right.
"Oh, this is for my diabetes." I'm going. I'm just like, this is a lot. But I can say that she is one of those people that keeps her doctor's appointment. She makes sure she goes to the doctor. She also walks a lot. She also watches what she eats.
Yes.
She's not one of those
Oh,
people that
good.
just eat anything. She also don't eat after a certain time. Like it's so
Mm,
funny how sometimes we'll go out to dinner and it'll be a late dinner. It's like,
yes.
"Oh, we're going at 7:30, 8 o'clock." She's like, I can't eat that
Can
late.
do
Like
that. Right.
she'll go and she'll sit. She may get some tea, or she just may go just to, because we're going. She's like, "I can't eat that late." Like
Yeah.
have to what your limits are, right? And you don't
Right.
really have to have this big presentation to tell everybody what it is that you're doing. Just
Right.
have your boundaries and then stick with them. If you can't go out, then ask them, "Can you do it a little earlier?" Because I have to eat
Yeah.
around this time.
Yeah.
So I commend her on really keeping up with going to her doctor's appointment.
Good
And
for your
you know,
mom.
yeah, she's a good example
Good
of,
for her.
because she could just be like, "Well, shoot, I'm 79, I'm old, so whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. I gotta
Right.
go." But
Right.
she wants to have, even though she's 79, she's traveling. She's getting ready to go to Dallas next month. So you want to be able to do things for
Yes.
yourself, for your grandkids, and just have a nice quality of life. I don't want to be one of those people, and not the knock anybody who's there, and for whatever reason, I don't want to be on a cane, I don't want to be in a wheelchair, I don't want to be on a walker. I
Yeah.
want to be able to take myself to the restroom, wash myself up, feed
Yeah.
myself, you know.
Yeah.
And granted, some things happen that's beyond our control, but the things that
Yeah.
we can control for us not to get there, then just do it.
Yeah, that's why it's so important to have your show to talk to people about these things, right? That you don't have to, even the things you see maybe in your family or the family history, and that's how folks in your family have aged in the past, doesn't mean you have to do that, right? You can break that cycle, right? You can do different things to keep yourself healthy. I love when I see my seniors living well. I
Yeah.
think she was about 80. And I'm like, what are you doing that is so good? She's like, I walk about 3 to 5 miles every
Mhm.
day. And I loved it. I said, keep doing it. I
Yeah.
mean, in her right mind, because that walking, I can't stress that enough, that movement is so important. Do it outdoors if you can. We know when you walk outside in nature, that's a stress reliever. It's good for your mental health.
Yeah.
And so all of that is key to living well. And I want to say with being physically active is also being mentally active. I think
Yeah.
as we get older, right, sometimes we're sitting and we're just watching TV or whatever, but do little things to keep your mind active, right? If you have friends, if there's an activity that you want to do that can help to, bring you joy, think about those things. Learn a new activity to kind of sharpen your mental
Yeah.
health, right? If it's you want to learn how to quilt something for your grandkids, right? Start quilting, start going to the step classes or whatever that is, to keep the blood flowing to the brain, helps to you to stay active, and it decreases the risk of Alzheimer's and dementia as you get older.
I know a lot of older people do like puzzles or this thing called
Yeah.
Sudoku.
Sudoku, I tell them all the
Sudoku.
time,
Yes. I'm
get your
like,
Sudoku, get your
yeah.
crossword, all of that keeps
Yeah.
the mental mind going. Absolutely.
Yes, yes. One of the other things about just growing as we're aging is the whole isolation thing. You may have some individuals that may live alone and they may not have family that live close to them. So, and I think a lot of times people think older people are lonely because they are alone. But some of these, like you said, some of these older people have they life be so full and they're constantly doing stuff and on the go that they may be living alone, but it doesn't mean that they're lonely. And you don't have to be because you're older.
Right, right. Is that's different, right? Than I'm alone versus I'm lonely and socially isolated, right? Those people who are socially isolated and are craving connection with people are more depressed and live less years because of that,
Yeah.
right? And that's something that's can be prevalent in the senior population that that they're isolated, right? So think about how we include them in activities or get them an outlet. There's lots of senior programs at the Y and the local community centers just for seniors. So that's really important.
Yes, Deonde says she has enjoyed this segment. She says been
Awesome.
shared to one of her community sites, and she said, "God bless you, my mock sister." Thank you, Deonde. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Always when we're having something, Doc Michelle, we always include my mom. We're calling her. I don't care if we're going to the movies, if we're going out to
Yeah.
eat, if we're going to the museum, like wherever we're going, we're calling her, and she always says yes. She's always ready
Your mom is
to
good.
go, like always
Right.
ready to go.
She's feeling good, right,
Yes,
sis?
she's always ready to go. So I would say include them, like call them and always and ask them and because you never know what's going on in their life, what's happening. So just always include them. Like anything that's happening with the kids, mom, the kids is having to play, mom, there's it's
Yes.
a choir, they're singing. Like we're
Yes.
always inviting her somewhere and so that her day can be and she has stuff she's doing herself. She goes to the Y. It's a
Good.
seniors program. It's called Silver
Right.
Seniors or
Silver
something.
sneakers. Silver
Yes,
sneakers.
and she's there at the Y. She's working out. They take them
Good for
to
her.
the movies, they take
Good
them
for
different
her.
places. So she, she has her own things that she's doing, that she's busy, and then we're making sure that we're incorporating her and our continuing to incorporate her in our lives, so that she can feel that she's worth it, she's youthful, she's needed. And
Mhm.
we just have to include them.
Yes.
Sometimes we get so busy and we be like, I'm too busy to,
Right.
and then when they're not
Right.
here, we're like, oh, I should have done this. I should
Right.
know. Make time
Make
today.
time for them. Yeah. Yeah. Because,
Make
like you
time.
said, God willing, we'll all get to that age and we want to have inclusion and we want to be active and we want to have good, mental health. And you, including your mom, keeps her active and mentally active. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting out, got to get out.
Yes. Deonde, she said she shared it with her Austin, Chicago, Illinois Facebook page.
Awesome.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
really appreciate that. We're hoping that they walk away with some information they can incorporate into their lives today.
Hmm.
Today. Ooh, let's talk about this one. Now, this one right here. Stress. Now, I'm one of those people that always say it was because of stress that turned on that gene that ultimately led to my cancer,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
uh, and we know cancer doesn't start overnight. It doesn't start overnight.
Right.
So sometimes it could be there 10 years before it even shows or anything. So, but I feel like doing that, it was like maybe a 2-year window to where I was depressed and I was just really stressed in my life. And I feel like it kind of turned that gene on to where, because we all have cancer cells in our bodies, as everybody, cancer cells is not active to where it's harming us. But I felt like it turned on, because I was stressed out, it turned on that gene to where now I'm having to deal with this because my immune system was compromised, because I was depressed,
Right.
because I was allowing things to stress me out.
Right.
Stress, we know stress is a silent killer. So yeah.
Yes. And we live in a state of chronic stress a lot of times, right? If you are in your car and then you go home and you turn on the news and right, and we're in a state of chronic stress, which increases the inflammation in our body. The stress hormone cortisol decreases your immune system and ability to fight off infections, right? We know when we're stressed, all of a sudden we've got a cold, right? And so I can't stress enough how important it is to have stress relievers in your life, right? That might be, meditation, that might be going to church, that might be yoga. I started taking yoga in January. It's the best thing I could have done. I hate when I miss it, right? But it's not, yoga is not about me really being necessarily physically fit. It's about some mental wellness time for me, right? And so including whatever that is that's going to help reduce your stress. Sometimes and I will make a conscious effort. A lot of days I'm like, I am not listening to the news today. Okay, because it's too
Yes.
much. Okay,
Yes.
and that constant stress actually rewires your brain, right? And affects your ability to think clearly, affects your memory, and as you said, increases your risk of dementia and Alzheimer's. These
Yeah.
things are multifactorial, right? We talked about a lot of things that affect our health and dementia. It's a lot of things. And when you think about all the things that we are assaulting our bodies with on a daily basis, right? It's no telling that we have disease and illness. And
Right.
so, yeah. And so we can have to do our parts. Turn off the TV if that's causing you stress. We talked about exercise as a stress reliever. Is it yoga? Is it talking on the phone with a good friend? Whatever makes you laugh and happy, that's a stress reliever, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, because in today's world, we're chronically stressed.
Yes. And for those of you who are just tuning into Warriors Talk, we're talking about how to stay healthy as you age. And I have with me Dr. Michelle Meeks, and she comes on monthly and she educates us on different topics about how to make healthier lifestyle choices with your life. And she gives us things that you can incorporate when you leave the show, so you don't have to wait a month or two to do it. You can start incorporating things that we talk about today on the show. So thank you so much, Dr. Michelle. I appreciate you for just being consistent in what you do, the passion that you have to educate listeners on just making healthier choices and taking action today.
Yes, and that's one of the things I love to talk about because as you said in the beginning of the show, I've been a doctor for over 20 years, and it's frustrating to just write prescriptions and deal with the consequence of, the things of not doing the right things earlier in our lives and
Mhm.
trying to cure and treat the disease. So whenever I can impart some knowledge to help you prevent having to come to see me for
Right.
disease, that's what I want to do.
Yes. My Leah said listening to this episode while getting in a quick exercise.
Awesome.
Yes,
Good, good, good.
yes. Deonde said, thank you, Dr. Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
listening. Go and spread the word.
Yes, I appreciate that. So I wanted to talk about this one because this one right here, some as you're aging, because aging can be depressing depending on how you look at it. I think it's all really a state of mind, because some people may go into it, if you're having a lot of health issues, you may not want to grow older. You may feel like the older I get, the worse off my condition get. So and then it may lead to you being depressed. There's a lot of things that comes with aging, but depression shouldn't have to be one of them.
Right. Yeah. So depression is not automatic when you're aging, right? But we know that seniors can be depressed because of social isolation, or maybe they're dealing with chronic pain or something, right? Else. And that depression over a long term decreases their cognitive um, acuity, the way that they're able to think, and can lead to a feeling of more depression and decreased ability to take care of yourself. And so if you are feeling depressed, don't think it's just a normal part of aging. Talk to your provider, because there are certain antidepressant medications that we use in the elderly that are safe to help lift your mood, right? And then we can also talk about natural things to do to help, right, with your mood. But depression, if you're depressed long term, chronically, it can change the chemicals in your brain and the wiring in your brain. So we want to address it early when you're starting to feel that way, so we can sort of prevent things from getting worse, and to the point where, as you said, people are harming themselves or committing suicide, right? And a lot of that is talking to a therapist, is in having a social network, a supportive social network, and hobbies that you do as you're getting older. Even as I turned 50, I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? I want to pick up some hobbies and do some things, right? So that I can keep my mind active and age well with other things, right? Because
Yeah.
as you get older, right, your kids are gone, right? I'm no longer raising kids. So what am I going to do to stay active? Well, actually, I have a dog now, but pets, speaking of pets, pets are good for your mental health, right? But you've got to make sure that they're not a trip hazard as you get older, right?
Yeah.
But even interacting with pets, studies show, helps seniors stay mentally active. And that might be volunteering at a shelter or doing something like that, where you still, it's not your dog, but you're still getting that love and attention. So having leisurely activities and hobbies, think about that now when you're in your 40s and 50s. And how do you want to age? How do you want to age well and gracefully, so that even into your 60s and 70s and 80s, you have activities, you have hobbies, you have friends, you have things that you like to do.
Yes. I know a lot of times on the show, Dr. Michelle, we talk about some of the myths that come along with certain diseases. And I just wanted to jump into them really quick.
Sure.
A couple of them. And one of them was, if a family member has Alzheimer's disease, I will develop it too.
No, not absolutely, right? So there is some genetic component, but we talked about all the other things that you can do, right? There's nothing we can do about the family we are birthed into, but there's lots of other things that you can do to decrease your risk. I've got a father and a sister with diabetes, but that doesn't mean I have to have diabetes, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that I stay active, that I'm eating the right foods, and that I don't develop that. So same thing goes for Alzheimer's.
Another one was, now that I'm older, I would have to give up driving.
No, right? We know that's not true, but we want to be sure that it's safe for you and others on the road for you to be able to drive, right? Making sure you're getting your driver's test and checking your vision, your hearing, right? Your mobility, all of that's important so that you can stay driving, right? I don't know if your mom drives, but you can
She
drive in your
does.
70s, 80s, right? As long as
Hmm.
you're able to see, hear, and you've got good mobility, you can drive.
Yes. Now she doesn't like to drive at night. If it's night, she's like, I'm not driving. But
Yeah. And
anytime,
night vision does get a little bit worse as you get older.
yes. What about, is osteoporosis only a problem for women as they age?
No, men and women can get osteoporosis, which is thinning of the bones, which can lead to fractures. And one of the things you can do to decrease your development of osteoporosis is weights, lifting weights. And as we said in the beginning, it doesn't have to be heavy weights. It could be 3 pounds, 1 pound, 5 pounds. But when you build muscle mass and you build that muscle around your bones, it helps to keep your bones healthy and your bones strong, and then you're not going to trip and fall and break a bone. So osteoporosis can occur in men and women, but decreasing your risk of fractures come along with gaining muscle around those bones.
Yes. And I incorporated strength and exercises in my, I do it like sometimes 2 to 3 times a week, just to make sure, because I feel like when I did the chemo, it kind of like stripped me of a lot of things from my body. And I'm, even though I'm 11 years out, I'm still having to, build my body and consistently.
Yeah.
And I never did weights before. Like I'm a cardio person, but now that I'm in my 50s, I'm like, your muscle mass start declining when you're 40 and you're 50. And if you're not doing anything to keep it up, then you're going to find yourself kind of wasting away. And like Dr. Michelle said, having these fractures more often than you like, what's happening? Why is mama falling and she's hurting herself all the time? So, yeah. So I had to incorporate that in my weekly routine that I do for myself.
Yes, yes, that is very key, right? We lose muscle mass as we get older, and keeping that muscle mass on is important to keep us healthier and decrease the risk of fracture. So incorporate in, if you're listening and you're older, incorporate in some light weights to your routine at least 2 or 3 times a week. And as far as the cardiac exercise, we should aim for about 150 minutes a week of aerobic activity,
Mhm.
which is like 30 minutes, 5 days a week. If you can go for a walk, 30 minutes, that's good.
Yes, especially right now. Like after the sun has set, even it's still a little warm, but you could still get in a good
Yeah,
walk.
yeah.
Yes. So this last one, Dr. Michelle, it talks about sex decreases as you get older.
No, no, sex does not have to decrease as you get older, right? So for women, when they go through menopause, they may have some menopausal symptoms that include some decreased libido or vaginal dryness, and there's lots of medications the doctor can prescribe or for that. But we want, as people get older and as seniors can be as active as younger folks, right? And we want them to do that if that's something that they want.
Yes. Well, Dr. Michelle, can you give us some words of wisdom as it relates to how to stay healthy as you age?
Yes, thank you for having me. So, as we're getting older and the population is getting older, we want to be sure that we can do the things that we have within our control to stay healthy, right? We talked about movement. Think about 150 minutes a week of moving. Incorporate that into your daily activities. If that's gardening, walking the dog, going up the stairs instead of taking the elevator, make yourself a promise to do that. Think about the Mediterranean diet, right? Google that. Shared a little bit of some options and things to incorporate. Make small changes every day if you can. And then, if you smoke, quit and use all the tools available to you. And then the last part is surround yourself with friends and activities and hobbies. And those are the things that over time help to keep us healthy, right? It keeps us physically and mentally active and healthy so that we can age into our 70s and 80s like Lady Rochelle's mom, right? Driving, going places, and staying busy.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle. Can you tell everybody how to stay connected with you?
Yeah, so they can find me on Facebook at Doc Michelle. I'm also tagged on your show. They can reach out to me there if they're looking for a physician to share some information with their church or business. I'm available to do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle. You know I appreciate you and the wisdom that you bring to the show every month. Thank you for your dedication. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, it's wonderful to be here. I'm glad we could reconnect after this busy summer.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Thanks
thank
again,
you.
Dr. Michelle. You're welcome. You guys don't go anywhere. Warriors Talk will be celebrating our eighth annual Survivors Night of Reflection Gala that's coming up Saturday, October 19th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Crystal Sky Banquet Hall in McCook, Illinois. We are looking for all survivors to attend. The tickets are $60, and we're asking that you sponsor a survivor and allow them to come and enjoy this amazing event. You can go to warriorstalk.org for more information. You can nominate an individual who you would like to be a survivor of the year, or if you know someone who is going through cancer and they may just need some financial assistance, then you can nominate them to also be one of our financial recipients for the Warrior in Battle Award. So spread the word and let them know that Warriors Talk is celebrating 8 years. We're also grateful for our sponsor, which is Gloria Dotson with Mary Kay. And she is catering to all of your beauty needs from head to toe. You can go over to marykay.com/GDOTSON and let her know that Warriors Talk sent you. Warriors Talk is always looking for individuals to share their testimony. If you are a cancer survivor or a survivor and you want to empower and educate other individuals with your journey, then make sure you inbox me the word ready, or you can email me warriorstalk1@gmail.com so that you can share your testimony. Coming up next week on Warriors Talk, I have an amazing guest by the name of Marshall Bass, and she is going to share her testimony about how to be a cancer boss. You want to tune in for that. She's also a cancer survivor advocate, and she's going to be sharing her information. She has 2 books that are published, and she also has an anthology that she's working on, and she's looking for individuals to be a part of that. And her name is Marshall Harris. So I will leave you with these words of wisdom. You can't help getting older, but you don't have to get old. So join me next Monday at 6 p.m. on Intellectual Radio. As always, thank you for tuning in to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we are changing lives one warrior at a time. See you guys.